Come to Santo Domingo and it's surprisingly easy to eat Dominican food without eating the way Dominicans actually do. Because the meal people order at noon is completely different from what they grab after midnight. Breakfast can start with mashed green plantains, while some of the city's best-known late-night food comes from a cart on the street. So these are 10 foods that show you how Santo Domingo really eats, from everyday lunches to greasy midnight favorites. And one of them is so closely tied to a neighborhood north of the city center that people have been making a tradition out of it for generations. 10. Mangú con los tres golpes. Start in the morning because this is where Dominican eating gets serious. Mangú is green plantain boiled until soft, then mashed into a thick, creamy pile. But ordering just mangú is only half the experience. The classic breakfast version comes with fried Dominican salami, fried cheese, and eggs, the combination known as los tres golpes, or the three hits. Pickled or sautéed red onions often go over the top. It's salty, soft, crispy, rich, and much heavier than the sweet breakfasts many visitors expect. And this isn't simply tourist food. Dominican tourism authorities describe mangú with eggs, fried cheese, and salami as the traditional Dominican breakfast. 9. La Bandera Dominicana. Around lunchtime, the plate changes completely. White rice, stewed beans, and meat, often chicken, usually with salad, avocado, fried plantain, or another side. This combination is called La Bandera Dominicana, the Dominican flag. The name sounds ceremonial, but the meal is anything but rare. It became an everyday lunch combination, and Dominican sources describe rice, beans, and meat as the core of the country's midday food culture. So if you see a cafeteria advertising a plato del dia around noon, don't overlook it for something flashier. This may be one of the easiest ways to eat what someone working nearby is eating too. 8. Locrio de Pollo. Now take chicken and rice, but instead of cooking them separately, put them in the same pot. That gives you locrio. The rice absorbs the seasoning and cooking juices, so instead of plain white rice beside chicken, the flavor runs through the entire dish. Chicken is one common version, but Dominican locrio can also be made with pork, beef, sausage, and other proteins. It's the kind of food that doesn't need fancy plating. Scoop it straight from the pot, add a little avocado or salad, and you have a deeply familiar Dominican comfort meal. And the next dish takes that one-pot idea much further. 7. Sancocho. Sancocho looks like soup until you see what is hiding under the broth. Plantain, root vegetables, corn, and meat turn it into something closer to a full meal in a bowl. There are simpler versions, but the celebrated Sancocho de siete carnes can combine multiple meats in one enormous pot. Dominican tourism sources specifically list Sancocho among the country's popular traditional dishes. This is also where Dominican sazon matters. Garlic, oregano, onion, peppers, and other aromatics create the flavor base found across local cooking. Sancocho is the meal for when just a little soup has absolutely no chance of happening. 6. Chimichurri, the Dominican Chimi. After dark, Santo Domingo starts telling a different food story. Ask for a chimichurri, or simply a chimi, and don't expect the green Argentine sauce. Here, the name commonly means a Dominican street sandwich, seasoned meat in bread with cabbage, tomato, and creamy sauces. The combination varies from stand to stand, and that is part of the point. For years, Dominican reporting has described the chimi as an essential part of late-night eating, particularly when other kitchens have already closed. This is not the sandwich you photograph for 10 minutes, it is the sandwich you eat before the sauce reaches your wrist. 5. Pica Pollo. Then there is fried chicken, but with a very Dominican history. Pica Pollo grew through the Dominican Republic's Chinese-Dominican food culture and became an inexpensive fast food staple. Crispy pieces of fried chicken are commonly paired with tostones, fries, or chofan, the local take on Chinese-style fried rice. A Dominican newspaper once ranked Pica Pollo first among fast foods that transformed eating in the country, noting both its popularity and its connection to the Chinese community. So yes, it looks familiar, but put the chicken beside chofan and tostones, and suddenly the plate tells a much more Dominican story. 4. Chicharrón de Villa Mella. And this closes the question from the beginning. Head toward Villa Mella in Santo Domingo North, and pork becomes part of the neighborhood identity. The area has been historically recognized for chicharrón de cerdo, pork cooked until the outside becomes aggressively crisp, while the meat underneath stays rich. Santo Domingo North even traces a local chicharrón fair back to 1969, while Dominican culinary sources specifically associate Villa Mella with this pork tradition. It can arrive with yuca, plantain, casabe, or other simple sides. This is one dish where leaving the polished restaurant districts can add something important: place. The food and the neighborhood belong in the same story. 3. Catibías. An empanada may look familiar. A catibía changes the shell. Instead of the usual wheat dough, this Dominican-style fried turnover uses cassava, yuca, as its base. Inside, you might find chicken, beef, cheese, or another savory filling. The result is crisp on the outside, but the cassava gives it a very different bite from a standard flour empanada. Dominican street food references list these yuca empanadas among common fried snacks, and that makes catibía a good example of something you'll see repeatedly in Dominican cooking. The filling may feel familiar. The starch changes everything. 2. Pastel in Hoja. This one becomes especially important around Christmas. A pastel en hoja starts with a seasoned mixture, usually built from plantain and other root vegetables. Meat goes inside, and the whole package is wrapped in plantain leaves before cooking. Unwrap it, and the appearance may remind you of a tamal, but the texture and ingredients are distinctly Dominican. Pasteles en hoja are eaten year-round, but their strongest cultural moment is Christmas, when they become a fixture on family tables. So if you visit Santo Domingo in December, this moves much higher on the priority list. 1. Yaniqueque. Finally, one of the simplest foods on the list may have the strangest name. A yaniqueque is essentially fried dough, thin, crisp, and inexpensive. The name is generally connected to the Caribbean Johnny cake, but Dominicans turned it into their own street food staple. You'll often associate yaniqueques with beach areas, such as Boca Chica, just outside Santo Domingo, but they belong to the broader Dominican fried food culture too. Even restaurants in Santo Domingo serve versions inspired by the Boca Chica style. There's no elaborate sauce or 7-meat recipe here. Sometimes flour, fat, salt, and hot oil are enough. And that's the biggest mistake to avoid when eating in Santo Domingo. Assuming authentic means one particular kind of restaurant. Breakfast might mean Mangú and 3 fried sides. Lunch might be La Bandera from a cafeteria. After midnight, authenticity might be a chimi handed through the window of a street cart. And for something connected to a specific place, head toward Villa Mella and listen for chicharrón being chopped before you even see it. Because Santo Domingo's food isn't one menu. It changes with the neighborhood, the hour, and who's hungry.